everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5-Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Very good morning to you, Rush Nation. Here we are. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. It's the end of the first week of the Good Morning Football shows. I hope you've enjoyed it, or fantasy football shows. I hope you've enjoyed them. I hope they provided some valuable insight as you're preparing for Scott Fish Bowl or JTT Cup or Warrior Bowl, as we're going to do today. I decided I was going to do Battle of the Sexes on Monday, so I'm going to do that on Monday's show. So you'll have that ready for your Battle of Sexes drafts Monday morning, so it's fresh in your minds. There's so many drafts going on now. I kind of want to prioritize the ones more for the UK folks, only because we're here in the UK with more UK listeners. So I thought we'd focus on those. So Scottish Bowl, we've done quite a bit. With yesterday's show, I feel like you've got enough sort of late round flyers to really target and go for in there. So I feel like we've done the strategy of Scottish Bowl quite well to death. We're going to get into the middle rounds now today, this weekend for slow drafts. Some might already be there, some might be lagging behind. But I feel like we're in a good spot to really take on those drafts. I would say once you get into sort of round 11 onwards, shoot for upside. No, nothing's a reach in that range. Take your guys. Yeah, just take the guys with high upside. Don't stick your roster with too many sort of safe bets, because that's where you're going to struggle to get the variance to get out of the division. So yeah, we're gonna get into Warrior Bowl today. Before I do that, two things. One, first of all, thanks to Matt, who came on last night's show and talked about JTT Cup. If you haven't had any opportunity to do that, we do a regular flagship show on a Thursday. You can tune in on that. With Matt, we gave some great insights, and he gave some phenomenal insights as to what the charity does, but also how you can really make the most of your tournament and sort of get up and above and beyond out of your conference and into your conference championships for that tournament. So, give that a listen if you're in the JTT Cup, which starts on Sunday. And second, good luck to everybody in the UK drafting in their live UK drafts tonight, and then also to those going to the UK FFC tomorrow. Really gutted I'm not there. Really gutted. But unfortunately, close mates and family do come first. It's a wedding, so it is what it is. But it's going to be a great event. I look forward to seeing all the pictures and getting massive FOMO over the weekend. So good luck to those of you in your Scottish Bowl drafts tonight. I hope all those go well, and anyone else across the world who has a Scottish Bowl draft live draft this weekend or even next weekend, good luck to you on that. Today, we're going to focus more on Warrior Bowl. So if you haven't watched yesterday's show, make sure you listen to that first. A couple of things on that. One is the kick returner points and values, which is really important. And then the second part of that is the that's the first really important thing is get that. That's going to give you a good degree of variance. But the second thing is we did quarterbacks. So the quarterback scoring is very wonky in this league. So it puts a price on the premium players, but then it does sort of even out quite quickly. So I would just say on that, when it comes to looking at those values, don't reach on quarterback. There are going to be better values down the board. So you got your premium guys, of course, they kind of sit there, and then we can get into this. So I did the scoring at depth for quarterback really quite in depth yesterday. So I hope you kind of see that, and I shared a viewing sheet. Now in here, I have done a sheet of the top 87. It's not really 87 players. What I've done is basically done a sheet of 33 quarterbacks, because I feel like the quarterback scoring is the one that people are going to struggle with the absolute most. And then I've done the top 16 running backs, the top 24 wide receivers, and the top 12 tight ends. So that's going to be publicly available in the link to you. If you want the rest of the rankings, two ways you can get them from me. One is to sign up for our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/5-Rush, which I'll put a link in to the show notes as well, so you can join that. Very cheap, £1, £3 a month. You get access to all these sort of custom scoring sheets, and I'll do custom scoring sheets for leagues as well. Or if you drop me a DM saying I really want your Warrior Bowl rankings, you can get in contact with me, and with a charity donation to Crohn's Colitis UK, I will send you them. So that'll be the other way you can get Warrior Bowl rankings. I've ranked the top 240 players in scoring. That's outside of kickers, DST, and backup quarterbacks. So it will give you a good value of where to go late, and really sort of hone in and dive for strategy. Dial it right in, because the sleeper scoring is very wonky. As I said on yesterday's show, it doesn't really project everything on there. So I wanted to make that really, really clear. I think it's really important to understand that when you're looking at scoring in apps like Sleeper, they don't project everything. So you got to be really, really careful when you take those scoring points at sort of face value. So, right, I'm going to dive into the sheet now. So we can have a good look at this. So really going to focus on the top of the board here. And you see with the scoring, you've got a bit of an eclectic mix here, but the premium running backs do get a bit of a boost. That 0.1 rushing attempt that they get is quite significant, especially when you're thinking a couple of hundred times. It does boost their overall season long score quite significantly. Receivers do have a reception bonus, which kind of modifies it out a little bit, but it's a 0.25 reception bonus, and they're only catching the ball, so the premium guys 140 times. So kind of puts the premium guys at wide receiver on parity, but it puts the premium RBs right up there as well. There's also points for first down in here as well. So there is a bit of a mix. There is some returning yards in here as well, but it is very minimal in the scoring. So really, there's only about 3 or 4 guys in here that are worth exploring on the scoring, because it's only 20 yards per point. So if you project that maybe the top guy is going to get maybe 1,000 yards, which has not been done anytime soon, but with the new scoring, you could say that could happen. That could be an extra, 50 points. So over the season. So guys like Shaheed will jump up a little bit. I don't have anyone getting 1,000 yards. So guys like Shaheed will go up about 30, 40 points or so, which is fine, but it's a couple of points a game. So it's just something to keep an eye on this one. So going at the top board, you can see it's quite eclectic. You can see here I've got a lot of this is done on like passing completion percentages. So again, some of these players do get a bit of a hit. You can see I've got Richardson over Mahomes just purely on the rushing, but it's pretty close. I talked yesterday that Jaden Daniels is not a guy I'd be targeting because of that, because of his rookiness and his potential completion percentages. It could kill him in this format. So, we've got a bit of a spread here. Notice that Jonathan Taylor is above Breece Hall and Bijan in these rankings. Again, it's just the factors of the scoring for me and the way I project it gives him a bit of a boost here. But you can see here, and again, same with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara comes out pretty highly in the scoring because of the receiving angle on it for him as a running back. And again, that's why it vaults Christian McCaffrey to the 101 because they're high target volumes. Same way that the rushing differential with Debo jumps him up quite significantly on this board as well. So again, you're kind of getting a good feel. But you see the first quarterback here I really have coming off in the 3rd round. This isn't ADP. This is my scoring. So people are going to see the 1.5 point. People are going to see the 1.5 point scoring and immediately levitate to that. It just doesn't do enough for me. So I'm just a bit cautious. So to explain the scoring, receptions are 0.75 for points per reception for running backs, 1 point for wide receivers, and 1.5 points for tight ends. Half a point just doesn't do enough when you factor in the first downs, because the tight ends aren't getting as many first downs. It does bring the wide receivers back up the board, quite a bit. And so it's a clever way of making people reach for tight end. However, it would be that. So for me, Laporte, Kelsey are third round value guys. I'd much rather wait on someone like Ingram, where you're not losing that much at the position. You're losing 15, 17 points. So again, it's something to kind of factor in, and you see these tight ends start to sort of group together a little bit. But look at the realm they're in terms of quality of player here. So it's something to really think about. You see Marvin Harrison, I've got way down on the board here. He's going to go far earlier in drafts. You can say I'm down on Marvin Harrison. That's fine. I think I've put a bit of a case together over the last few weeks with guests as to why I think he's overpriced. And again, he's coming in here as the 61st ranked player. Now, okay, some of that is quarterbacks, and there's quarterback values to be taken in here. I mean, like Daniel Jones is over him, and you're not going to take Daniel Jones over Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft. There's position scarcity to think of. But again, when you're sitting here factoring players like him and Jalen Waddle, are not guys that you need to go out and immediately get. There's these little pockets here in this scoring for running back, wide receiver, and it's about when you're putting your strategy together, trying to come up with an optimal build. So I think, in round one, I'm looking at this thinking, depending on where you're picking in your draft, you need to get either one of the top QBs or one of the top RBs. I think you can fold. Yes, Tyreek obviously has a significant advantage here over Hill, Hill over Lamb, and then it kind of plateaus a bit here. But I think for me, you need to get one of these top RBs and one of these top QBs. If you can get both of those, you're in a really good position on your build to then focus on wide receiver. And there's a good few here that you can start to pick up on to get you through the next few rounds. And then, pick up your RB2. So for me, probably looking at in the first 4 rounds, and this is an optimum strategy. I don't know if it will come off. It depends on the values on the board, but or first 5 rounds would be 2 QBs, 2 RBs, 1 running back. I think if you can do that in the first 5 rounds of the Warrior Bowl draft, I think you should be in pretty good stead if you get good guys there. I'm not saying you reach that. You have to follow the positions on the board, and you have to see what people are doing. But I think for me, I'd fade tight end in the opening 5 rounds. I think you can. I don't think the scoring is going to punish you for that. I think for me, a 2 quarterback build, if the second quarterback is of supreme value, and if not, that's maybe where you swap in the tight end. So maybe it might be 1 QB, 2 running backs, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end. I would say as well, for those of you living in America, that UK players will take QBs earlier than American players. That tends to be the typical trend I found in drafts, and therefore Superflex won't be slept on. So that would be something I would be wary of, as I said on yesterday's show. But QB doesn't really fall off a cliff here. So, after sort of Jared Goff here, Watson's just a couple of points. Well, he's 10 points behind Tua. It doesn't really ever drop off. So you're not seeing a lot of punishment for waiting on QB. At any point, Jones, Mayfield, all these as a QB2 are going to be just fine. You can see a few points here and there, but across the season, you're really only contributing to 1 to 2 points per game. If you can get the value elsewhere, then fading second QB could be a good option. The same point that if you get 2 elite quarterbacks, I think you're going to be in really good stead in this format. So again, I think that's just looking at the scoring, digesting all of this. From my top 240 is there is a wide position variance. There's going to be many ways to really tackle this format. It's really, really clever scoring by Greg and Foley for sure. So I think if you're thinking about your strategy, I've given why I think it's the optimum. But again, I could see the optimum being 2 wide receivers, one running back, 2 quarterbacks. I can see the optimum fading the second quarterback completely. There's many, many different ways to tackle this draft. I think the key thing is this to zero in on the values. It is head to head, so stacking does hurt a little bit. So it's not all done on PF, and therefore, those bye weeks that could cost you a week, and you need to put that into consideration as well. So your head-to-head record is just as important as your PF. So it's not entirely, you can get in as a top point scorer, and that could be the route you want to go down. But record is probably the best way of getting in. So that's something to be focused on when you're thinking about stacking versus not stacking. I talked about that a bit this week, more with best ball to manage league. You've got waivers to think about as well in this one as well. So there's a lot of different factors going into this draft that you need to take into consideration. Make sure you read all the rules. Some people don't and then get really shocked when they find out it's a managed league. I think every year I've always had someone who doesn't set lineups. So just be a bit wary of that. But I think, again, looking at this, there's clear pockets where players are going in ranges in terms of positions. And I think you're going to see runs. I think you're going to see QB run. I think you're going to see a wide receiver run. I think you're going to see an RB run at some point in the first 6 rounds. And I think what you want to do is try and pivot away from the run to pick up the value, but you want to make sure that you're not supplementing or you're not losing positional value. So if you can get this point where you can get get your players before those runs and identify where those runs could happen, and the sheet will hopefully help you a little bit. Then you'll be able to do that. We don't have any ADP. So there's no ADP. We don't have any idea what we're doing. So we are really going to have to react to what's going on the board. So I think, for me, I'd be using these sheets to be creating tiers and looking at where you can get guys and then identify guys on the sheet that are overvalued against consensus. So guys like Samuel will be overvalued against the consensus. Tank Dell will be overvalued against the consensus. Joe Mixon will be overvalued against consensus. James Conn will be overvalued against consensus. Shaheed doesn't have as much value for me in this format, given the fact that the return yards are much smaller. So he's a guy you could probably take round 9, round 10 and take a bit of value on. But I wouldn't be reaching up where we have been in the other 2 formats. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, quarterbacks remain quite steady and pretty predictable what you're going to do there. But your wide receivers, there's a few here that I'm definitely missing out on. Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm fine with. Jalen Waddle, I'm probably missing out on. I'm fine with that. I think Chris Godwin's a player here that is valued above consensus, as is Cooper Kupp. Dalton Kincaid much lower than consensus. So I think we've got a few different options here to find our way through to get the players. Drake London's well under consensus here. We've got a few different options here to go through, and I think you're going to enjoy this particular draft. It's a massive challenge. Don't forget some of the tips I gave yesterday. Interact with your draft. Try and get some free information. Really, really important that you do that. Again, idea who people like as a team, who people what they tend to go for in terms of draft picks, who their favorite players are. If you can get that kind of information, what region of the country they're from, if they're in the US. Also, good steer. If you get their college, it gives you an idea in terms of what kind of college players they're into as well. So, just to recap, position is quite fluid in this draft. You've got a lot of different options to go through. Tight ends shouldn't be overvalued because of the 1.5 point premium. So, make sure you take that into your consideration when building your draft and your roster construction. And then, just make sure you find your pockets of value. There's going to be a run of QBs, a run of RBs, and a run of wide receivers in the first 6 rounds. Make sure you don't get stuck in the run and having to reach for value because you've ended up sort of a bit short-handed in a position. So don't get yourself shoehorned into a place where you are reaching and sort of chasing the position. Make sure you stay ahead of the position curves. If you see one going, try and think of a way that you can pivot. And if there's a really good show that we did, myself and Mags from Dynasty Hot Seat, Dynasty and Fantasy Wildcard. So if you haven't seen that, it's on a couple of weeks ago, so check through the channel. We talked about vertical board and horizontal board when creating tiers. So use these sheets to create tiers. And remember I said Patreon or donation to Crohn's Colitis UK, and you can DM me at 5 Year Rush for that. And we'll cover those off for you. So, and I'll get these sheets to you. But if not, I have made a publicly available sheet for the top sort of 80 or so players. I did the quarterbacks. I feel like the quarterback scoring is really important, and therefore wanted to give something to people who have watched the show. All about giving here at 5 Yard Rush. But I'll be back on Monday with the morning show. We'll do Battle of the Sexes and any other news that's happened over the weekend. Good luck to everyone this week. Really enjoy your drafts. Get to know the people you're drafting with. Make friends and have fun. But don't forget, Rush Nation, as always, have a good weekend and keep rushing.